Welcome to Muskegon Rising, a community service project of the Muskegon Rotary Club. Our purpose is to create lasting positive change. We've been doing that here since 1916. So, let's get started.
Yes, welcome to this episode of Muskegon Rising. I'm Nancy Crandall, a Muskegon Rotarian, and today's guest is Michael Olthoff, a renowned businessman in Muskegon, investor, philanthropist. From building a thriving company to investing in his community. With his wife, Kay, Mike shares how purpose and persistence have shaped his extraordinary journey. So, Mike, let's start with a bit of background. You were raised in Muskegon.
Yes.
You're a Big Red. Then what?
My being a Big Red was a big initial part of my life. Great school to go to, and which I believe it still is. And I was part of the marching band, which was very, very interesting. You know, it got me involved in things, etc.
What instrument?
I played French horn.
Oh.
Yeah, and never played it again after the high school. And so it was a great positive experience. Then went to Michigan State University and majored in business and education. And that was wonderful also.
And when did you join Nichols paper? And tell us about your journey there.
Well, that's interesting because I was teaching high school, and which I did for, I think, 3+ years. Enjoyed it a lot. And in our family, there's a history of teachers, so it's not something unusual. And my brother and my father were involved in business together in Nichols. By the way, Nichols was started by the Nichols brothers that owned the Daniels Office Supply Company downtown in 1936. And our father was the first manager of it. And so as, you know, life went on, eventually my brother and my father became business partners. My brother's 6 years older than I. And we really had not had any discussion about me joining the business. And then discussion came up about me joining and buying my father's interest out because he wanted to retire. And I thought, you know, that first of all, my brother and I get along well. Very important if you're going to get in business with a family member. And so we got together in 1971. Yeah, in fact, I had to look that up for this, 1971. And we were both salespeople. Business was very small, but we knew early on that we needed to grow the business substantially in order for it to have long-term success, and that's what we did. So,
was there a turning point in your career that propelled you from success to significance?
I don't think there wasn't just one thing. During our business journey at Nichols, my brother and I decided we needed to buy some companies. It was the best way to grow versus just trying to go to a new town and adding a few salespeople and doing that. We thought we would grow faster and have more control if we bought some companies along the way. So he and I started to do that. And by the way, when we were first in business, I think we did $500,000 a year. So in 1971. So we were a fairly small company. I remember we reached a milestone. We gave our dad a watch when we hit $1 million. So that was a big deal. And so as we continued to buy companies and expanded the business, each one of those, I think, was a milestone because we were able to kind of plant our flag in a new community or expand in an existing community. And it was very, very good for us. And quite frankly, we got fairly good at it. And I'm not saying that because I was fairly good at it. Maybe I provided the resources and some of the thought process. We had a great team of people to put that together. And eventually we were in, throughout Michigan, Ohio, Indiana. So we really grew into a Midwest distributor.
And where is the company now?
3 years ago, we decided, we being our board of directors, which our family is also on, I should say was on, And we decided, the best long-term viability for the business was to put it in other hands, because there are significant players in the distribution business, distribution meaning our channel of distribution, same kinds of products, et cetera. And they were buying companies throughout the United States. And for the long-term success of us, we knew that it was better for us not to compete against them long-term, because they have resources that we just can't have. When you're, let's say $150 million and you're competing against somebody that's $6 billion, it makes a big difference. So we were able to find a very good buyer. Imperial Date is their name, and they're out of New Jersey. And really let the companies, they continue to run. And, they're not interested in getting rid of people, all of that. So they kept it pretty much the way it is.
And the products that you distribute?
Paper, packaging, sanitary supplies, equipment, safety products. So everything that anybody could use, and which was interesting because there wasn't really a door that we couldn't knock on to sell products to. So exciting time.
I guess. That's fascinating. And the growth of the business is amazing.
Well, and interesting, back in the day when we first were together with it, we also sold toys and games and school supplies. And we were one of the major suppliers of toys and games in Muskegon. Not against Hardy Herbal-Charmers and the big guys, but that was when you bought toys and games maybe at your drugstore or your variety store. And so, we had dolls and cap guns and all those kinds of things, marbles and kites, and fortunately we got out of that.
I had no idea that was part of it.
And we also sold the school supplies, and that was before schools started to provide supplies, so you had to go and buy your notebook paper, before school and all that kind of stuff. So
that's interesting. Looking back, were there any failures or setbacks that taught you the most, and how did that shape your approach?
Well, I think two things would come to mind in that. First of all, anytime, and this is all during my 50-year career at Nichols, which I'm proud to say. Proud in one sense and kind of like sad in another sense. Wow, 50 years. But, whenever we would lose a customer, and we did lose customers, you had to take a step back and say, okay, why did that happen? Could we have done something to keep that as a customer? What could we have done differently, et cetera? So we had to kind of reassess. Sometimes you couldn't. It was a corporate decision that came out of New York or something, with the particular branch that we were dealing with. And so you couldn't do anything about it, and that's fine. But otherwise, maybe there's something we could have done. And customers are very, very important to us. They're the lifeblood of what we do, because we don't manufacture anything. We just distribute. And the other thing is that whenever there was a good associate in our business, and we called our people associates, not employees, because we worked together, and whenever a really good person decided to leave and go to another company, we had to reassess. And that happened, over 50 years, it's going to happen. Okay, why did that happen? Were there enough opportunities, et cetera? And by the way, that was another reason for us to really wanting to grow, was that we needed to get bigger so there were more internal opportunities for our good people so they could stay with us.
Wow, that's great. And how has your definition of success evolved over time? I think you've kind of addressed that.
Yeah, really, it's... I don't know if there's a definition of success. You get from point A to point B to point C to point D over 50 years. And I think one of the things is that as you always set some new goals. And success today is here. Tomorrow we think it's going to look like this. How do we get from here to there? And then we would set some milestones in between. So, you build up your successes. Now we need to get here. Now we get to there. It isn't one leap. It's small steps that you make. And one of the things we tried to do, too, was always to celebrate those successes. Because, work is pretty tedious after a while. Even though we can say, oh, we love this business. Yeah, right, Mike. You're not in the trenches. And so we try to celebrate those successes along the way.
And what role does risk play in both business and giving, and how do you manage that?
Well, in order for us to grow and buy companies, we had to borrow money. So we were always in debt. For 50 years, we've been in debt. But it's because we were growing. And we'd buy a company, and over 3 to 5 years, we pay it off, and then look for another resource and buy a company. And we were very successful in doing that. And banks were willing to work with us, probably because we paid them back. And so we were willing to take that risk. And if we had not been willing to do that, we would not have been as successful as we have been.
That's fascinating. And explains, I think, part of why you were instrumental in forming the Muskegon Angels and taking risks and helping companies start and grow. Mm-hmm. How did this come about, and has it been successful?
Well, there are other communities that had angels groups. And in discussion I had with some of my fellow compatriots in the community, I said, let's form that here. And so we put it together, and we quickly got, I think, close to 25 individuals that wanted to be part of it. And the idea was that we were going to, as much as possible, grow businesses within the greater Muskegon community. And if that wasn't possible, we would look for businesses within Western Michigan to grow, because it's really is a greater business community than just Muskegon or Muskegon County. And so I think it took us about 5 years to use up the resources that we had committed to do that. And we had invested in probably, I think, 15 companies. And talking about risk, the idea of angel investing is that that a number of those companies are not going to make it because they're startups, and they're taking a risk also. Even though no matter how much you vet them and you think, oh, this is a great idea, sometimes those aren't great ideas. And so they go out of business. And then you hit a few home runs. And we're still in that process. I think all of the investors have gotten their initial investment back. And we still have, I think, 3 or 4 companies that are out there that, we hope to do some things. And it was a great time. Go to those meetings and listen to these people pour their heart out to you, thinking that this is something they wanted to do their whole life, et cetera. So.
And is that continuing?
No, it is not. We committed that we were going to, I say committed in the sense we asked individuals, let's commit for 5 years and X amount of dollars a year. And when those dollars are used up in investments, then that's our commitment for Muskegon Angels. We did not want it to make it necessarily just an ongoing thing that somebody had made an open-end commitment to.
What do you look for in the people you invest in or mentor?
I think that, number one, do you believe in what you're doing? Or is this just something, I always wanted to start a business. Well, that's not going to be a good thing necessarily. You may be successful, but that wouldn't be something that we would want to, or I would want to invest in, or mentor. It's more of a, do you have a belief in what you're doing? Do you get along well with people? Because ultimately it's not about you. It's about the people that make it happen. I don't care whether it's a big business with hundreds of people that are employed, or whether it's a small business and you have 2 or 3 part-time people. Those people are the ones that are making you successful. If you think it's you that's making you successful, you won't make it long term.
Interesting. You are one of the investors in the former Sappy property.
Yes.
What is the status of that right now, and what do you foresee?
I'm smiling because, yes, I'm one of the long-term investors in the Sappy property. We did not necessarily think that we'd be owning the property this long, but that happens, and we're committed to it. I see nothing but long-term positives out of it. We have an individual, a company that is very committed to making that happen. We have not transitioned the property yet to that individual and company, but they've been very successful, and we're still working through some of the things you need to do, and getting the approvals and go through the regulations and that kind of thing. So, we think it's going to happen.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. You and your family have been involved in the Muskegon community in a number of ways all of your life. Mm-hmm. Is this a family inherited trait?
I don't think it was so much a family inherited trait, even though my parents always gave back. I think it was more that something just evolved with Kay and I. And, fortunately, I'm married to a great person that also believes like I do about giving back to the community. I would think it would be very difficult if one of you wanted to give back and the other one didn't want to, but we both want to. And so over the course of our lives, we've been able to do that, thank goodness. I've been very fortunate. I should say we've been very fortunate. And it's one of the things that we really have enjoyed doing. And, hopefully it's not over.
I hope not. It's obvious to those of us who know you and Kay that you do enjoy doing that. And the Muskegon community has benefited and are grateful.
Well, and we don't think of it as an obligation.
No, I didn't mean that at all.
No, I know. No, we just don't. Mm-hmm. It's something that we like to do.
We enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm.
Which of your philanthropic projects has been the most meaningful to you?
I don't know if there's one. I think it's more of the arts community. We think arts are very, very important to the fabric and the life of Greater Muskegon. And so whether it's the symphony or whether it's the art museum or civic theater and I'm going to stop there because there's a number of others and I'm going to leave somebody out. But they're all just very, very important. And, the more that we can do to make sure that those organizations are successful, the happier we are.
And I've noticed that you've been very generous to Grand Valley. And I wondered, is there a connection there?
Well, we really started to believe in Grand Valley when Grand Valley started to believe in Muskegon. And when they decided to build the Water Resources Center here, that was kind of an aha moment. It's one thing to say, gee, we're really committed, etc. But when you say, no, we're going to spend several $1 million and put in some bricks and mortar, it's like, no, that's a real financial and telling commitment. And so at that point we said, yeah, no, we'd like to get involved with that also.
That's great. Well, to the benefit of both Muskegon and Grand Valley. What advice would you give to young entrepreneurs trying to build a legacy, not just a business?
Well, I think you build a legacy because, again, you believe in what you're doing and you believe in the people that you have helping you get there. Again, it's not about you. It's about the people that are helping you get there. And, the better you do at that, I don't think the legacy is going to be about money that you've given, etc. It's how did you live your life? And it's a combination of being in business, whether you own a business or whether you're I shouldn't say just, but part of a business, or whether it's you volunteer in the community, etc. At Nichols, we had 4 basic tenets that we believed that made you a stronger person. And they were not in order of importance. It was family, it was career, it was health, and it was community. And we believe that those 4 things needed to be in balance in your life without being preachy. And as a teacher, I could be preachy at times. But it's like the 4 legs of a stool. If one of them isn't in balance, you can't sit on the stool very well. And so you needed to have thoughts, goals, etc. in each of those 4 areas. If it was just a simple matter of, I have not played catch with my kids in a long time. So this week, I'm going to start to do that. I need to lose 10 pounds. And I need to lose 10 pounds. So how do you do that? Well, you start a pound at a time, right? You start to walk. You do this. Maybe your career is something that, I'm not too happy in the job that I have. Well, let's talk about that. Because if you're not too happy in it, first of all, you're not going to do a great job. And secondly, you're not going to stay with us. And several times we help people transition to other companies. Not because we wanted to lose them, because it was the right thing for them. We had a gentleman in our warehousing operation, ended up being an electrician because that's what he wanted to do. So, and then community, you've got to give back. Whether it's money, whether it's time, whether you're volunteering, whatever it is, you just need to be involved.
Great words of wisdom for all of us. Is there anything else you would like our Muskegon audience to know about you, about your life and career?
No, not really. It's just, we are who we are. And, it's about how you live your life. And thank goodness we're still living ours.
Yes.
Muskegon is a great community. And it's amazing what has happened over the last 10 years. And it just continues to grow and thrive. And, there's going to be bumps in the road, and there's going to be things that work and things that don't work, et cetera. But my goodness, we're trying different things. I say we as the greater community are trying different things and trying to make things happen and grow it. And I think people are getting excited about being here.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think they are too. And you and Kay have been a major part of that, I think. We are very grateful to you, and thank you for being here today.
Oh, my pleasure.
It's been fun, and I've learned a lot about Nichols and about Mike. Thank you for joining us. That is the sum of our interview for today. Thank you all for watching.